I never imagined that the man I married would become the reason for the biggest pain of my life. When I first met my husband, I believed I had found a wonderful person. He was polite, caring, and made me feel special. I trusted him completely. But I knew nothing about his past. If I had discovered the truth before our marriage, I would never have said yes. Let me take you back to the day when everything began. A few years ago, I attended one of my friends' weddings. The wedding hall was crowded with relatives, friends, music, and laughter. Everyone was enjoying themselves. I was having a great time with my friends. We were talking, laughing, and dancing together. Then I noticed a man standing quietly at a distance. He was tall, well-dressed, and attractive. What caught my attention was the way he kept looking in my direction. He never came over to introduce himself. He didn't even try to join the celebration. He simply stood there and watched. At the time, I thought nothing of it. 2 days later, I received a message from an unknown number. Hello. I saw you at the wedding. Can we talk? I was confused. I replied, who are you? He answered, I'm the man who was at the wedding. Then he told me that he had noticed me that day and thought I was beautiful. I didn't know what to think, but I was curious, so I agreed to talk. We started chatting regularly. He was gentle and respectful. He always knew what to say. He told me that I was different from other women and that he felt something special whenever he talked to me. Within only a couple of days, we were talking from morning until night. Then, on the 3rd day, he suddenly said something I wasn't expecting. I want to marry you. I was completely shocked. I told him, but we barely know each other. He replied confidently, as sometimes you don't need years to know what your heart wants. I believe you're the woman meant for me. He promised that he would always take care of me and make me happy. His words touched my heart. I ignored the fact that everything was happening far too quickly. And I said yes. Our wedding was arranged soon afterward. It was a simple ceremony with only our closest relatives and friends. I wore a beautiful white dress, and he looked extremely happy in his suit. Standing beside him, I believed I had made the best decision of my life. For the first few weeks, everything seemed perfect. He was affectionate and caring. He brought me little gifts, said sweet things, and constantly made me feel loved. I thought I was lucky. But slowly, something changed. About a month after our marriage, I noticed him smiling while looking at his phone. I casually asked, who are you talking to? He immediately put the phone away. Just a friend, he said. I trusted him, so I didn't question him further. Life continued. Eventually, we became parents to 2 beautiful children, a son and a daughter. From the outside, we looked like a happy family. But inside our home, things were gradually becoming different. He started coming home late. Whenever I asked him about it, he said that work was keeping him busy. He spent less time with me and became extremely protective of his phone. Whenever I came near it, he would quickly lock the screen or put it somewhere else. Something inside me told me that he was hiding something. Still, I didn't want to accuse my husband without proof. I kept hoping that whatever was happening would eventually stop. Then one night, everything changed. He left his phone on the table and went into another room. I stared at the phone for a long time. I knew that looking through it was wrong, but my doubts had become too strong. Finally, I picked it up. What I discovered destroyed the image I had of my husband. There were messages from another woman. They weren't ordinary messages. They were deeply romantic. He called her my love. He told her that she meant everything to him. He sent her affectionate messages that I had never received from him. My hands began to shake. Then I discovered photographs of them together. I couldn't believe what I was seeing. The woman wasn't a stranger. She was from my own village. I knew who she was. She was actually older than my husband and already had 3 children. Her own husband worked abroad. But the biggest shock was yet to come. I discovered that my husband had known her even before he married me. Their relationship hadn't started after our wedding. It had been going on before I entered his life. Even after marrying me, he had continued seeing her. There were times when he disappeared for several days. I had believed he was busy with work. But he had actually been spending time with her. He gave her money. He bought things for her. He even took her children out to parks and shopping centers. I sat there staring at the messages, unable to stop my tears. All those years, I had believed that I was building a family with the man I loved. But he had been living another life behind my back. When he finally came home, I couldn't keep the truth inside anymore. I showed him the messages. "What is this?" I asked through my tears. The moment he saw his phone in my hand, his face changed. He knew I had discovered everything. "I'm sorry," he said. "Sorry?" I could barely control my anger. You didn't make one small mistake. You lied to me for years. You promised to love me, but you were secretly meeting another woman. He begged me to forgive him. He promised that it would never happen again. He told me he wanted to save our family. But I was completely broken. I didn't know what to believe anymore. I took my children and went to my parents' home. For an entire month, I stayed there. I didn't tell everyone the complete truth because I was ashamed and confused. Eventually, my parents noticed that something was seriously wrong. They asked me why I wasn't returning home. I finally told them part of what had happened. At first, they found it difficult to believe. Then they told me something that made my decision even harder. You have children. Maybe you should forgive him once. Perhaps he will change. My husband also came to my parents' house. He apologized again and again. He promised that he had realized his mistake. For the sake of my children, I decided to give him one final opportunity. I returned home. But things were never the same. I was living with him, but my heart was no longer there. I couldn't forget the betrayal. Every time he touched his phone, I became suspicious. Every time he came home late, I remembered the messages. I wanted to trust him again, but trust doesn't return simply because someone says sorry. For a while, he behaved differently. Then, after about 2 months, I noticed the same signs again. Secret messages. Hidden conversations. The same suspicious behavior. And then I saw them together. My worst fear had become reality. He had gone back to the same woman. Nothing had changed. Whenever I confronted him, he would apologize. Please forgive me. You're the best wife. You're an amazing mother. You're my angel. He knew exactly what words to say. But his actions told me the truth. I had already given him another chance. He had wasted it. That was the moment I finally understood something. Sometimes, forgiving someone doesn't mean you have to stay with them. And having children doesn't mean you must spend your entire life accepting betrayal. I had spent years listening to everyone else. This time, I decided to listen to myself. I made the hardest decision of my life. I decided to end my marriage. I didn't want to spend the rest of my life waiting for the same apology after every betrayal. So I left. Later, I moved abroad to work and build a new life for myself. My children stayed with my parents while I tried to become financially independent and rebuild my future. Leaving wasn't easy. There were nights when I cried. There were moments when I questioned whether I had made the right decision. But slowly, I became stronger. I realized that my life wasn't over because my marriage had failed. I had lost a relationship, but I hadn't lost myself. Today, I don't regret choosing my own peace. I learned a painful lesson. Never judge a person only by how they treat you in the beginning. Some people can say all the right words while hiding the biggest secrets. Love needs honesty. Marriage needs trust. And once trust is repeatedly destroyed, words alone cannot rebuild it. I don't know what the future holds for me. But this time, I am choosing my own life. I am choosing peace. And most importantly, I am choosing to be strong for myself and for my children.